Hello everybody, Mr. Brucker here, your PE teacher here at Duker. Today we're going to do another wellness lesson. Remember, wellness is any activity or anything that you do to help keep care of yourself. Today we're going to study some human anatomy. We're going to study the skeletal system. Okay? The more you know about your body, the better you will keep care of it. I'm a big believer in that, and you'll continue to hear me say that all of the time. All right, and it's very true. All right, we need to be knowledgeable about our body to know how to keep care of it. All right. The skeletal system is very important to fitness and movement because it is the structure or the framework, if you will, for our whole body. Now, some of you may think this is cool. Some of the boys especially. Generally, some of you, mostly girls, you may think this is really gross, but think of your skeletal system. If we didn't have your skeletal system, you would be nothing but a blob of skin, organs, muscles oozing or laying all over the floor. All right? So we can't move or do anything without the framework of our body, which is the skeletal system. All right, some interesting facts about the skeleton. When you are born, unlike a lot of things, you grow and you actually have more bones when you're born. You have about 300 of them when you're first born. And then over time, especially the first few years of life, some of those 300 bones kind of fuse together and make one bone. And you end up with 206 bones all together. Now, this may seem intimidating to you at first, but don't worry. When I tell you that you are going to learn in 4th and 5th grade, you're going to learn the name and location of almost all 206 bones in the human body. That's going to seem crazy. But let me break it down for you. All right? First off, your body is symmetrical, meaning it's the same on each side. All right? So if you were to take your body and cut it in half, it would be the same on each side. Most of the bones you have 2 of. So now you're cutting that 206 down basically into half. Okay? And out of those, let's say 103 bones now, a lot of bones are very small bones in groups of bones in your body. Your wrist, for example, and your hand and your fingers are made up of groups of bones. We're not going to learn the name of every little bone in the wrist or hand, okay? We're just going to learn them as groups of bones. So when we break all of that down, we're only learning maybe 25, 30 bones, which is doable. And I don't expect you to know all of the bones by the end of this lesson, but as we keep working on them, I guarantee that you will learn them. Also, I want you to be very disciplined in following the structure of the lesson and how we're going to try to learn to memorize the bones. As I start introducing them to you, even though I know that I'm out here and you're in there somewhere and we can't really see each other, or I can't see you, right? When I point to a bone and say it, I want you to point to it on the computer screen. Maybe not actually touch the screen. We don't want any messy computer screens, but point towards it or point to it on your body and then say it out loud. That process of pointing to it and saying it out loud will help you to memorize that. And that's going to be real important that you start learning to do that, because you're going to need to do that in a lot of science lessons and so forth, where you have to learn to memorize or label things. Okay. So without any further ado, we're going to start from the top and literally go to the bottom. All right. Our head is commonly called our skull. Point to it, say it. Don't be shy, I didn't hear all of you. Let's hear it again. Point to it, say it. Better. Sometimes the skull is also called the cranium. Point to it, say it. All right, moving down. Our collarbone, which a lot of you may have heard of, runs across from our neck to our shoulder. That's what we call the common name. That's not the official medical or what we call anatomical name for the bone. It is called your clavicle. Your collarbone is your clavicle. Point to it, say it. Good job. I know that may seem kind of weird that you're talking out loud to a computer screen, but trust me, it'll help you very much in learning. In the back of our shoulder, unless you're very flexible, you're probably not going to be able to point to this one. We have a triangular shaped bone in the back of our shoulder called our scapula. Point to it, say it. Now we're moving to our upper arm bone. The bone that starts at our shoulder and goes to your elbow is called your humerus. Point to it, say it. Some of you may have heard the term funny bone, hence the name humerus. That's where that saying comes from. All right, humerus, funny bone. Sometimes if we hit our funny bone right at the end, right at the elbow joint, and it tingles, they say you've hit your funny bone. Again, that's where the saying comes from. But there's nothing really humorous about it. Make no bones about it either. Now we're moving down to our forearm. You have two bones in the forearm area. Your radius and your ulna. Going up along the side, you have a rounder bone, the radius, right? And on the inside, you have the ulna, a little bit thinner, longer shaped bone. All right? Now, excuse me while I adjust as we move down the body. Get that angle down there. All right, that looks pretty good. All right, our hip bone, the weird shaped bone, is called your pelvis. Now this is a bone that you only have one of, but again, if it were cut in half, it would still be symmetrical, the same on both sides. Also, you can point to that one and say it, my apologies. We also have our spine, which I kind of missed. I should have went over before the pelvis. Or sometimes your spine is called your vertebrae. There are several of those bones that go straight down your back that protect your spinal cord and your neck. All right, now, like I said earlier, there are a bunch of bones that make up our wrist, our hand, and our fingers. We're not going to learn the names of every one of those bones. Some of those bones are as small as your pinky nail. All right? The group of bones that make up your wrist is called your carpals. Point to it, say it. And the group of bones that make up your hand are your metacarpals. Point to it, say it. And the group of bones that make up your fingers are your phalanges. Point to it and say it. And now, speaking of some of the smaller bones in our human body, we are now moving to the biggest bone in the human body. Our upper leg bone is our femur. Point to it, say it. Now, what I forgot to do in my drawing here is your patella. That is your kneecap. It is almost a perfectly rounded bone protecting your knee. All right, your tendons and ligaments and so forth in your knee. Point to your kneecap and say patella. Now, we are moving to what we call the twins of the shins. I made that saying up because it rhymes, and so do the two bones of the shins, tibula, fibula. All right? Your tibula is the much bigger, thicker bone in your shin. If you go down and feel your shin and you feel that bony part of your shin, that is the tibia. And then running more up the side is your fibula, much smaller. A lot of times a small Y is called a fib. So that's how I remember that is the smaller bone of the shins, fibula. All right. Last but not least, very similarly to your wrist, hand, and fingers, we have a bunch of groups of bones that make up the ankle, the feet, and the toes. Your ankle bones are called your tarsals. Point to it, say it. Remember, your wrist bones were called carpals, and your wrist bones are tarsals. The way I remember the difference in that is if you were to drive, you drive with your carpals or metacarpals, and down by your toes are your tarsals. Then metatarsals are your foot bones. And again, your toes are called phalanges. I always just say phalanges of the feet or phalanges of the fingers to distinguish the difference between the two. Basically, now we didn't cover every single one of them, but those are most of the major bones in your human body, right? It's important to know those. Again, the more you know about your body, the better you'll keep care of it. And then when we start to study muscle anatomy, you'll understand where the different muscle groups attach to the different bones. One last tidbit. Your bones can be kept care of through exercise, but also proper nutrition. Right? Foods in mostly the dairy group contain what we call calcium. Your milk products, mostly things with milk, okay, that contain milk, cheese, right, contain calcium. And calcium helps build bones and teeth. Right? So making sure that you eat food that is rich in calcium will help keep care of your bones, along with just generally exercising will help keep your bones healthy as well. All right. At any time, please refer back to this video to help you. You can even pause it and quiz yourself, all right, as you're going along. Nice job, everybody. Thank you for your patience.